Welcome to another edition of the Litigation Psychology Podcast, brought to you by Courtroom Sciences. Dr. Steve Wood, Dr. Bill Kanasky. Steve is at Rockville. I am not at Rockville. I am at home, helping my son through ACL and lateral meniscus reconstruction rehab. Steve, what's the vibe at Rockville? I've seen the weather. This is not pretty out there. It's scorching all week.
Yeah, it's very warm here. It's in the mid 90s, and as expected, where people are passing out left and right.
Yes.
Even last night around 6-7 o'clock, they had right in the middle of one of the shows, they had to bring through the fire rescue to get someone who had passed out. So those of you who are not ready for the heat, this is not the best time right now.
Yeah. And I'm like every year, like last year and the year, EMS is always very, very busy for a number of reasons at Rockville, which is, for any of you who have been living under a rock and not listening to the podcast regularly, it's a 4-day music festival, essentially 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. for 4 days. And it's inside of the Daytona International Speedway. You're definitely going to get your steps in. My knees and feet still hurt from last year. Now, Steve, describe, we already had our first crowd surfing incident from last night from when you texted me. Give us the lowdown on that.
Yeah, so right in the middle of Asking Alexandria show, they actually stopped it. The lead singer said, "Hey, we got a leg injury here," and it actually stopped the show and allowed time for the EMS and them to come up and get that person out of there, and probably delayed the show about 5 minutes. So,
okay.
I mean, it's good that the lead singer stopped the show. Some of them don't. Some of them, encourage people to get in the pit and beat people up. But so kudos to the lead singer for stopping the show. But I thought it was interesting.
Okay, very important question, Steve. Can you pinpoint here? Was this a crowd surfing injury or a mosh pit injury? These are two very different types of situations, correct?
So yes, that's a good question.
Yes, it's a very good question.
I didn't get a chance to see the actual incident. All I saw was the lead singer stop it. So it could have been one or the other. But I'm sure there will be other crowd surfing incidents where last year we've seen it where people fall and get hurt as because they're getting passed along and everybody doesn't have the ability to pass them further along. So rather than them get passed along, they just get dropped by accident and fall.
Now, as a music festival expert as you are, if you were a betting man, what incidents, right? You think there's more crowd surfing injuries over this 4 days or more mosh pit injuries? Where would you, if you're a betting man, where do you put your money on this?
I would say probably actually more on the crowd surfing than the mosh pit, because the mosh pit's usually, it's aggressive but friendly. Somebody gets knocked
There's
down.
rules. There's parameters in the mosh pit. I don't think there's any parameters, or not many, for crowd surfing.
There's not. No, the crowd surfing there's the, make sure you cross your legs and kind of disperse your weight, and then that's kind of the only rule. In the mosh pit, there's several rules about the do's and don'ts, and if someone falls down, pick them up, and you don't blindside people and all these types of things. So I would say that you're going to have more injuries on the crowd surfing.
I mean, the litigation nightmare with this. Now, I'm pretty sure there's a waiver, right, when you buy your ticket. But you could just imagine. Now, funny enough, as we know, I'm not sure if. Listen, I am positive because I see them every year. There are multiple signs that say no crowd surfing.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Are there any no mosh pit signs?
No, and in fact, actually, there are people that carry around like big flags that probably stick up about 15 feet into the air that say pit, and they have an arrow down. So if you're not sure where the pit is, you just find the flag and find your way to the pit.
Okay, so if anybody needs instructions for an upcoming music festival, please reach out to Litigation Psychology Podcast. Dr. Wood will walk you through all the parameters if you're interested in either crowd surfing or mosh pit activity. Steve, last thing, based on the lineup this year, who are you really looking to see here? What do you think?
So I haven't funny enough, of all the bands I've seen, I have not seen Kill Switch Engage yet. So Kill Switch Engage is on the top of my list. Seven Dust will be playing on Sunday.
Seven Dust is very good.
Oh yes, Seven Dust is very, very good. Marilyn Manson, now clean,
This is gonna
sober.
be interesting.
Yeah. And then Sunday night they're closing it out with Korn, who I have seen in Houston, but I'm going to stick around to the very, very end to see them again too.
Corn's heavy.
Yes.
Corn
It's
is
funny, Bill,
heavy.
too, when you were talking about kind of safety and stuff, they've actually upped their game this year. As far as
Uh-oh.
safety, they now have buses, and I don't think they had these last year. They actually have cooling buses, and you just get on the bus, cool off, and then get back and go back to the show, which I don't remember them
It's
having
it's
last year.
it's pretty smart because the temperatures are ridiculous. My wife and I keep saying every year, it's like, why do they do this in mid-May? Why? And why is my dog going nuts?
Uh, Always when we're on the podcast.
Gosh, it just never it ceases to amaze me. Okay, okay, let's jump into today's topic. It's going to be down and dirty because you have music to go listen to. And Steve, I would highly recommend some electrolytes today, along with, don't just go pounding water. You got to like do that kind of combo, like hit a Gatorade, hit a water, hit a Gatorade, hit a water, right?
Bill,
You got a plan for this?
at this point, Bill, I'm a rock festival veteran, and in fact, I'm always looking to impart knowledge and stuff. I found myself
Yes,
being that 44-year-old dad to imparting knowledge onto all these newer, younger rock
yes.
billions. But no, I have the liquid IVs in my suitcase. I will be taking a liquid IV before I go over.
Yes, and you'll have to update me on the costumes this year. Seeing the full-grown man in a diaper last year was very interesting. Okay, let's get on to this topic. So, witness prep. See, so there's this situation that I keep seeing. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough. And I gotta tell you, I think it's one of the hardest deposition preparation situations to deal with. And it happened yesterday again, where I got on with the defense counsel and the witness, and the defense counsel says, "Okay, let me give you the lowdown on plaintiff's counsel." I go, "Okay, what do we do? Like, what's the scouting report?" And like, this is one of these, like, they're not really prepared. They're wildly disorganized. They jump all over the place. The questions are a paragraph long and just all over the place. And what I see these witnesses doing is like they get frustrated, right? So you train the witness, right? So if you get a bad question, you get a confusing question, you get a question that's, there's five questions on one paragraph. What do we tell the witnesses to do? You say, hey, listen, I don't understand your question, or can you please be more specific? Or wow, it looks like you asked me five things there. Could we maybe break those down, right? I mean, that's like standard operating procedure. But what I'm seeing is when the witness does that, and then the opposing counsel essentially just keeps being confusing, I see a lot of witnesses getting frustrated, annoyed, and then a couple things happen here. Number one, which is really bad, the witness ends up fixing the question for the questioner, right? Like, gee, like it's like Jesus Christ, I don't want to be here. Yeah, we're gonna be here all day if this guy, right? So the witness ends up saying like, well, okay, wait, are you asking me this? And then the witness articulates the clear question for the questioner, right?
Yeah.
Or the witness is just so they get sick and tired of the confusing, questions that are all over the place, and they just start talking, right? It's more of a negative reinforcement thing, like, oh God, like I better say something meaningful here because otherwise I'm just going to keep getting all these bad questions. Can you talk a little bit about your observations when it comes to this stuff and how you prep the witness for it? Because I really like if you have like the standard, like say you have a med mal case and you have a med mal plaintiff attorney, or a standard trucking case and you have a standard plaintiff trucking attorney. It's far more predictable. It's far more systematic. But then you get these one-offs Or you get the plaintiff attorney that's maybe it's a trucking case, but that attorney doesn't do a lot of trucking, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And these questions are so bad, and the witness is just sitting there like helpless, going, "What do you want me to do?" Talk a little bit about your experience with this and how you deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this comes up not too often, but it comes up more often than we would like. And in that situation, it's just getting the witness to understand that if you're not sure of the question, don't answer the question, and don't try to fix the question either, even though it's frustrating. And I think you hit it on the head when you talked about negative reinforcement, because that's exactly what it is that
Yeah,
they're thinking, I don't want to be here all day. I better say something meaningful. But then what you ultimately do then is you're only helping and reinforcing that attorney to continue asking their bad questions and get bad answers from you, or have you ramble on, because you're trying to fix their bad questions. So in that situation, you just have to build the witness up to have the confidence and to just say, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question, or could you break it down? And then if they do it again, say, I'm sorry, I still don't understand your question. Can you just continue to break it down? And just get them to understand that ultimately they own the answer that they're going to have to give, and that until they
yeah.
get a question they could answer, don't answer the thing.
Now, here's the difficult part, which I find the most difficult in our sessions. You absolute like you can't just tell them that. Like you have to role play this, Steve.
For sure.
Meaning you have this is really difficult to do, right? For the attorney, and sometimes I jump in. It's like you have to design and articulate bad questions to test the witness to get them to repeatedly demand clarity, right? That's no easy task, coming up with really shitty questions.
Right. And I think, though, you bring up a good point, though, because I think this is a battle that we always see when we talk about witnesses, is that you can't just tell them. Too often we say,
Yeah,
just wait before you answer, be short, concise, and then to think that saying that is enough. It's not. You
it's
have to
useless.
put
It's
all that.
useless, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. So yeah, so went through that yesterday, and boy, was it is really, really, it's really difficult because it's so frustrating for the witness. Now, I've had some defense because so the instruction to the witness would be, don't answer bad questions.
Yeah.
And if you have to say, listen, I don't understand your question several times, to go ahead and say that. And then a defense attorney say, well, at what point? This is an interesting question. Defense attorney says, well, at what point does the witness look evasive? And I'm like, okay, well, pick your poison. Do you want them answering a bad question? Which, when you do, you end up, volunteering information, or you answer a different question that was actually asked, increases vulnerability. But how bad does it really look if the witness persistently says, "Listen, I can't answer that question because I don't understand. I don't understand it." What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's a really good question. Because there's that's always the concern, right? Is that
Yeah,
they look evasive. But I would say in that situation exactly what you said is I'd rather take them getting clarification than worry about being evasive. I guess though the point being is ultimately you're trying to get the plaintiff attorney to say, well, what is it about my question you don't understand, right? What is it about it that's unclear? And then
yes,
if your witness can articulate, I'm not, it just sounds like there's multiple things there. Or could you break it down so that I can understand it? I mean, I
yeah,
think you're forcing the issue to then have it come back, kind of like how we talk about, forcing the why question, is get it to the point where the plaintiff attorney says, what is it that you don't understand? And then have your witness be ready to articulate it so that it
yeah.
doesn't, it
Meaning, I
doesn't
don't
look
know what
evasive.
time. Yeah, I don't know what time period you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
Or which document are you referring to, right? Yeah, so I think the witness, to maintain their credibility, can say, like, here's what I don't understand about your
Right.
question. At the same time, not not fixing the question for the questioner, right?
Well, I think that's a key that you bring up too. Is it's
Yeah.
not, it's saying I'm not sure what time frame you're referring to. I'm not sure what document you're referring to versus the, I'm not sure. Are you asking me this? Are you asking me that? Are you talking about this document, or are you talking about that document? To the point where you're basically saying you're fixing the bad question for them.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, again, I don't see this a lot. Probably comes up once a month, right? But I
Yeah.
also think, so I think Now, here's the question is this actually a tactic by opposing counsel? Or maybe they're just wired that way, where they're all over the place. But I have seen opposing counsel come into a case and defense counsel say like, this attorney, like for example, if it's a med mal case, they'll say like, this attorney doesn't do a lot of med mal. And so what you see is sometimes that attorney will, butcher some of the medical terms or ask a question that doesn't make sense. And I think that's a, area where, the witness is going to have to make sure, again, that they're not answering the questions that aren't articulated appropriately, and make sure that they keep asking for clarification. Now, funny enough, I was on TikTok, because about my TikTok addiction.
Yeah.
And which I'm going to transition to our last topic here. A lot of plaintiff attorneys on TikTok, right? And so this video, they're walking out of a conference room, and there's three attorneys, and they're all laughing. And the plaintiff attorney looks at the camera, and he's like, "Yeah, I just got done with the deposition, and I was asking questions, and this witness kept saying, 'I don't understand your question. I don't understand your question. Can you be more specific?'" So I told this witness, I said, "Listen, we're videotaping this deposition, and I am going to string together a highlight reel of you saying these types of things, okay? You know the answers to these questions, and I want answers, and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to show this to the jury to show that you're playing games, blah, 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 blah." And then he says, and from that point on, the witness answered every single question for the rest of the deposition. So I think this is a tactic that happens is when the witness starts to say, "Listen, I don't understand what you're saying," that one of the common tactics by really good questioners is to say, "Well, I think you're playing games, right? You're under oath, right? I'm asking the questions. And they start to threaten the witness, right? And then many witnesses cave at this point, right? And then they end up answering all the bad questions because they've been pressured to do so.
No, yeah, I think when you said, is this a tactic or is this they're just really asking bad questions? I think it can go both ways, but obviously this is clear that it's a tactic that is being used by some attorneys. So, I mean, I think though I don't know. I mean, part of me would say I'd rather just let them string together. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think the explanation for why you don't know is relevant, right? I think you could always clean that up at the end. And really, if anybody's playing games, it's the plaintiff attorney playing games to try to get these witnesses to have that pressure to then start answering the questions. Or as you said, the questioner doesn't know the area as much and they use the wrong terms. And one would argue that might be a tactic as well to get these health professionals that we know love to volunteer and love to be helpful. When a plaintiff attorney is using the wrong terms, whether they're doing it on purpose or on accident, it leads the witnesses to say, obviously, this person doesn't know much about the area. So let me slip into teacher mode and explain it to you because obviously you don't know it very well, which as we know, can turn out very bad too, because now you're giving long-winded answers and you're volunteering a lot of information.
Yeah. Let's transition to our last time. By the way, cameras are off today. So everybody on the YouTube channel, not going to be able to see is your hair a mess?
Hair's a mess, hat backwards. I'm in
hotel room, bad hotel room.
Bad hotel room. Just so not a good situation here.
No, that's okay. We all have the bad hair days. Me, not so much. So let's talk a little about on TikTok and LinkedIn. We've been sharing a lot of videos back and forth, Steve. Describe this. It's like a plaintiff attorney marketing campaign is, I guess, is the only descriptor I could use for this. So like the traditional marketing that you see from plaintiff attorneys, on billboards or some of the TV commercials, is they like to use their client, right? Bob got me, $750,000, right? And they got some right client on camera, giving their testimonial. They've really gotten away from that. And on social media, we've seen this like full frontal it looks to be very, very coordinated. Again, it seems to be a full frontal marketing attack on the insurance industry. Not necessarily big corporations, but I've seen some of that. But man, I mean, how many videos have you seen on LinkedIn and TikTok, or just posts that are just all over? So in other words, insurance companies, they're bad. They're going to rip you off. That's why you need to hire me because you have no chance. Don't talk to them directly. Blah 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 blah. And I see them getting away from the kind of client, centered types of messages and really, really just going after the insurance industry. What are your thoughts on this? Because this has been going on for several months now, and it seems to be really catching on.
Oh yeah, I mean, the insurance industry is definitely getting demonized, and I
Yes,
think it's interesting to me though that, and I'm sure as you said, it's very coordinated. But as you know, you can't talk about insurance at trial. But how many times have you and I been with mock jurors where they start talking about insurance
every
and
time.
yeah, and we have to go in there and say, don't think about insurance, can't talk about insurance. But I think the plaintiff's bar is doing a very good job. A, demonizing the insurance company, and B, bringing up the fact that there's insurance money involved. And I think that from the defense perspective, that becomes very dangerous because now what's happening is jurors know that at the end of the day, insurance companies are the ones that are paying for it. So
Yeah.
insurance companies, we don't like them. Insurance companies are on the hook for this. That's who's ultimately going to pay. So let's give big verdicts because ultimately it's not going to influence the company. It's going to be the insurance company. We don't really care about the insurance companies.
Yeah, and I mean, jurors didn't really like insurance companies to begin with, but this is clearly a coordinated campaign to influence public perception. And there was just some congressional hearings this week with Josh Hawley, the one of the Congress people, was cross-examining one of the insurance. I think it was Allstate had like the some insurance executives from Allstate and just ripping these people, right, on how they handle claims and stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff is like stuff from, whether it be auto insurance but a lot of it was like, storm coverage and stuff like that from hurricanes. But it doesn't really matter, right? They go after the insurance companies. And then, after the terrible, tragedy in Manhattan where the guy from United Health got killed. It's really it just seems to be in the headlines all the time, and now jurors. Jurors watch the news. Jurors, big time social media stuff. I see this happening over and over. So it almost makes you wonder. Is this coordinated? Is it going to keep going on? But I've noticed it's not like one plaintiff firm. Like this is across the board. This is absolutely across the board, and I'm not really sure what the defense bar can do from this. But I haven't seen much of a pushback from the insurance industry or defense side on this from a public relations standpoint.
Yeah, I haven't either. I think, it highlights the point of how those types of commercials, those types of conversations ultimately kind of influence jurors' decision making, which
Yeah.
goes back to, the billboards that we've talked about too, right? You see billboards all over the place as people are driving. So it gets into the minds of jurors that
Yeah.
they see that type of stuff. And to think that they don't come into the jury room or the courtroom with those perceptions in mind of seeing those billboards and how it's affected them, I think you're being foolish to not think that that's not having an impact. And I think obviously people know about it, but to your point, what can the defense bar do? What can the insurance companies do to kind of combat this though? Because I think right now it's pretty much all one sided where it's just demonizing them. But I think there needs to be some sort of discussion around how do we combat this so that, we don't just let it keep happening.
Yeah, very good point. Okay, I got to roll. Enjoy Rockville. Provide me a full report. Make sure you stay hydrated. And if you are going into the mosh pit, which I know that you will because you can't help yourself, please do not come out. We don't need any my son already has the ACL tear. We don't need a CSI consultant down with an ACL tear.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I will stay on the outside this year.
please be careful. Hey, safety is a top priority, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thank you guys for participating in the Litigation Psychology podcast, brought to you by Courtroom Sciences. Please leave us a review on whatever platform that you're listening or watching on. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.